Good evening, and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa. My pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste. My pronouns are she, her.
And today is a Celeste-led episode.
It is.
So what are we talking about tonight, Celeste?
Tonight we are talking about La Chupacabra.
Oh my god! All right, let's get into it. Intro music.
Intro music.
Alright, so Chupacabra.
Tell me what you know about the Chupacabra.
So, I heard it was a phenomenon starting in the 90s or something, or like that's when it got big. Shout out to the podcast Super Duperstitious, because I heard a lot about them. It's a comedy podcast about the science of the strange, and from what I recall from their episode about it, there was some sort of movie that had come out like 6 months to a year before a lot of the sightings.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. I remember the movie exists. I don't remember anything about it.
Well, that's a big part of it, but
Yeah.
there's some preamble before, so
Okay.
before that.
Okay.
Do you remember where?
Puerto Rico?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I did just say that right before we started.
Off mic, we just said that, yeah.
Oh, that's cool though that they did a whole episode on that.
Yeah. So shout out to Super Duperstitious. If we ever get cool enough to do a crossover with them, we should do a crossover with them. But
I'd love to do crossover things.
yeah. Anyway, get us on Super Duperstitious's radar, I guess. Anyway.
Okay.
So, what are we on?
We are talking about the Chupacabra, or Chupacabras, as it was first called. So it used to first be called Chupacabras, and then it got shortened by one letter.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not quite haplology, but you know. Also, haplology is the reduction of syllables or repeated syllables in a word over time. England used to be England, but because it was used so much, and the interesting thing is haplology has not happened to itself. Because if you use it enough, it'll probably turn into haplology or something like that, but haplology. Anyway.
Fun facts with Lisa.
Chupacabra.
Yes.
Is it V or B?
Chupacabra. So we'll actually get into the name here.
Doesn't it mean goat sucker?
Yeah, literally. So chupa is sucks. Chupar is to suck in Spanish. And which is hilarious because I was like, oh yeah, that is true, because a pacifier is, I guess it's called a chupete, but my family always called it chupon because it's like sucking, as pacifier, sucking motion. So it's a chupon. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And a cabra is a goat. So it literally translates to goat sucker. The name was actually coined by a radio DJ during the 90s who was like commenting on all these weird happenings that were, and I guess that's why it has such a literal name. It's a chupacabra.
Yeah. So how did the phenomenon start? Did someone just see all other goats dying or something?
Well, I will tell you the chronological incidents and sightings, sort of. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what is like the physical description, or is it changed over time?
Yes.
Okay.
It has.
All right. So I guess let's go with the chronology then.
Yeah. So first things first. Before the 90s, in the 70s, in February of 1975, by the way, although technically I'm a native Spanish speaker, I didn't do any like cross research to see how these were pronounced, so I'm going by memory, so sorry if I mispronounce any of these cities.
Regionalisms
names.
are a thing.
Yeah. I am Mexican and this is Puerto Rico, so obviously it's different.
Because like in France it's called Versailles, and I think it's Kentucky or Tennessee it's Versailles.
Versailles.
Yeah. So
That reminds me of
regionalisms, they exist.
I love quoting this line. It's like, how come this is this is Kansas and this is not Arkansas? In February of 1975, in the Rocha Barrio suburbs of Moca, Puerto Rico, 15 cows, 3 goats, 2 geese, and a pig were found dead with puncture marks in their carcasses.
In a consistent place? in the carcass? Like, is this like a vampire situation where they're all getting bitten on the neck or something, or?
This specific one, it didn't say where the puncture wounds were, but it just said that there were puncture wounds. I'm sure if I did more deep research, it would tell me where the puncture wounds were. But surprisingly, the 1975 incident didn't have as much consistent report. I think maybe because it was just kind of in a newspaper somewhere, instead of this was before this phenomenon was happening. So autopsies showed that blood had been drained from their bodies, and the incident made headlines, and police blamed animals' deaths on stray dogs. So this one, because you said the puncture wounds, a cow was found dead with similar marks on its skull.
Huh.
Yeah.
What? I'm trying to visualize here. What part of the skull?
I mean, I'm guessing it's head, right?
Well, I mean, that is where the skull is.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, that's fair. Maybe, but I'm saying, why did they say the skull and not the head?
Well, that implies it goes down to the bone, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have a little bit, when you're getting a shot, you're not going down to the bone necessarily, going down to the skin. But if there's puncture marks, but if there's puncture marks in the skull, it means it went through to
the bone.
Some sort of brain matter.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know. But that's why I'm asking where it is, because it's sort of maybe you're getting to the mouth, maybe you're trying to get to the brain, maybe they don't know how eyes work and try to get to the eyes. I don't know.
Honestly, the eyes would. Well, then if it was in the eyes, it wouldn't show, because it's just
holes.
That's
why they might not know how eyes work.
It's just, that's true.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it was strong enough to break their bone?
I mean, if it's in the skull, probably.
That's creepy. Yeah. So when this cow was found dead,
this is also in the 70s.
Yes, this is in 75.
Okay.
When this skull was found, when this cow was found, a newspaper called the phenomenon of the animal deaths. They said that it was the work of El Vampiro de Mocha, which you could probably guess.
The vampire of Mocha?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I mean, it makes sense if there's a bunch of puncture wounds and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they were thinking vampire.
Okay.
That was they were thinking. I don't know if they were thinking human vampire or just a creature that's vampire-esque.
Maybe they were calling Twilight before that was a thing. And quote unquote vegetarian vampires.
70s. When did Nosferatu and all that come out? In the 40s?
That's a good question.
Was that before? That was before vampires were romanticized, right?
I mean, they started getting romanticized in Dracula in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Nosferatu,
although Dracula was still described as terrifying.
That's true. So there's Nosferatu. In a very brief Google search, Nosferatu. There's one in 1922, and then Nosferatu the Vampire with a Y instead of an I was 1979. Anyway, so that's literally just the autofill from Google, so take those with the requisite grains of salt. But yeah. So
basically, the newspaper, the people were saying, oh, vampire. For 1992 to 1995, there was just a series of isolated attacks that took place in Puerto Rico. So, just random livestock or dogs.
Yeah.
So in March 1995, 8 sheep were found dead. Their bodies were completely intact, but their blood had been drained, leaving behind puncture wounds in the chest.
Okay. And what kind of creatures were these again?
Sheep.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
5 months later, in August of 1995, as many as 150 farm animals and pets were killed by a predator around the town of Canovanas. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. The animals were said to have been drained of blood through small puncture wounds in the neck. And then, in case you're wondering, because you were saying how big are the wounds were about the diameter of a drinking straw, and 3 to 4 inches in length.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are big fangs.
Yeah. Yeah. Good grief.
Good grief indeed.
Yeah.
It's even a drinking straw. If you look at that's big. circle.
That's pretty big around. Yeah.
So yeah, weird puncture wounds, 3 to 4 inches in length, which is a lot, to be honest. And like I said, this is in Canovanas. Now,
Okay. Do you know where on the island Canavadas is?
I will look it up because I want to see also how I'm gonna look up also how far it is from Mocha. Once again, I hope I'm pronouncing that. Sorry, it's Moca. So Canovanas is on the right part of the island. It's near San Juan.
Oh, yeah. So it's like the western part of the island.
Yeah, western part. Not the right part. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the right part depends entirely on which way you're orienting.
Exactly. On the western part of the island near
Yeah.
San Juan.
Hey, it's Editing Lisa. I say the word west a lot for the next couple minutes, and the past couple of minutes, I forgot how geography works. It's actually on the eastern side.
Yeah, San Juan is like a coastal city. It's capital on kind of the northwest side. And you can take a highway to like Rio Grande and Cuyo, and Canovanas is like on the highway to the like western beaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I just looked it up, and Mocha, and once again, I hope that's how you pronounce it, is actually on the other side of the island, on the eastern part.
Yeah, so that's like, it's almost situated like if you were Puerto Rico is not like completely symmetrical, but somehow if you were able to like slice it down the middle and fold it over, it seems like Mocha is the same distance from the coast as Canovanas is, just Mocha's the east coast and Canovanas is the west coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Editing Lisa. Caravana is on the east coast, and Mocha is on the west coast. And, yeah, sorry I forgot how compasses work, and also geography. Okay, bye.
They're about 155 kilometers apart.
Cool.
So,
But now that I have Google Maps up, it's interesting because it looks like they're both kind of near forests. Like, well, Canovanas is still kind of a ways from El Yunque National Forest, and actually doesn't look like Bosque Estatal de Guatajarca. Maybe that's just a tourist destination. Never mind. But yeah, it seems like they're both kind of close to green space.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was a tangent.
This is where we get, in August 1975, this is where we get our most detailed description and sighting of what will become La Chupacabra.
Okay, so Canovanas 1970s.
Canovanas 1990s.
1990s. So, yeah, because August of 95.
Yeah.
Said. So, Canovanas 1995.
Yes.
Celeste and Lisa were literal babies.
Literal children. But they are not in this story. This story features a woman named Madeline Tolentino. It's August 1995. Madeline Tolentino, at about 4 p.m., is assisting her mother in moving into her house. So they lived in the same house, but I guess her mom was moving in with her.
Okay.
Okay. Tolentino was inside the house, and she looked out the window, which was, by the way, I'm getting all these details from an interview that she had done.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in like 96.
Okay.
So, she was inside when she looked out the window, which was wide and faced the front of the house. And she noticed a car was about to park in front of the house. And then she noticed that the driver of the car looked frightened, and Tolentino saw a creature standing on 2 legs in front of her window.
Okay.
Okay. So the driver looked frightened because he was looking at this creature.
Yeah.
The creature, I guess, moved from the car towards the front of her house,
Okay.
where there was the window that she was looking out.
Okay. No, I'm staring at this my apartment window, trying to visualize it a little bit. So she's staring, and she sees the car on the road before she sees the creature walking towards her.
Yeah. She saw the car, and I guess what she had, from the description, she was like, oh, I saw this car trying to go in front of the house, and I was making sure he wasn't going to block the driveway.
Oh, because the moving van's about to get there. Yeah.
And then when she saw the car, like she was looking at the car to make sure it was going to block the driveway, and she looked into the car, saw the guy was looking scared of something.
Yeah.
And then I guess she followed the line of sight and saw this creature.
Oh, because she was worried about the car, and then she sees the driver, and the driver's like, what the fuck? And so she follows the sight line over there or wherever the driver was actually going. Okay. That makes more sense. Okay. Yeah. For some reason,
that was my fault for not describing it correctly.
But I had an ADHD brain fart when you were starting it, and for some reason, I had it in my head that like the creature was in between the car and the house, and here I am thinking, how does she not see it if it's in between? Anyway, but that's my thing. Anyway,
the driver of the car looked frightened. She saw a creature, and then the creature moved closer towards the glass window.
Yeah.
So this is Tolentino's description, which is actually extremely detailed, but we'll get into that later.
Okay. So what did she describe?
According to Tolentino, the creature kept shifting its eyes from side to side, and its eyes were dark gray with no whites. This is a direct quote. They were damp and protruding, running up to its temples and spread to the sides. So think of like a little gray alien. You know,
that's literally just what I was thinking. Yeah. And if my parents were listening, it's that green alien that my dad always puts out for Halloween.
You know, I saw an alien. No, sorry. I saw a spaceship once with my dad around Halloween. We were in the front yard.
Yeah.
And we were like looking up at the sky, and there were these like aircrafts, and they were in like a triangle.
Wait, you're telling me a literal UFO experience right now?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They were like in a triangle. I know I was a kid, and I know at some point I was doing research for like something else completely different because I'm just into that stuff. Yep. And it mentioned like, oh yeah, in the late 90s there was a UFO sighting thing in like California, and I was like, oh, I saw that.
Celeste, you're giving away free content.
That's true, but it's such a, because it was the late 90s. I was a kid, and it's such a foggy memory that I can't, like, that's all I remember. I just remember being in the front yard looking out. My dad was like, that's weird. I was like, that is weird, because I'm like 6 and I don't know anything.
All right, well, next bonus episode with Celeste.
I know, right?
Anyway,
UFO content.
Yeah.
I've seen another one, but I'll wait. I'll save that one.
Let's not give that one away for free. Oh my God.
Anyway, so back to Chupacabra.
Yeah.
It was about 4 feet tall, and it was walking like a human on on 2 legs. Okay. So it had long arms that were drawn back into what she described as an attack position, and each arm had 3 long, skinny fingers.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll show you an illustration of what it looks like after I finish describing it.
Okay.
Its legs were long and skinny with 3 toes, and she described it as like a goose's foot, which you know how they have like the web in between the toes? Yeah. The hair, she said that it had short hair that was like close to its body.
Okay.
And it apparently had been burned by something, because, another direct quote, it had some round things on its body, and the region seemed ashen, as if something had burned it right there. The burn mark revealed pinkish purple skin, as if the top layer had fallen off. So you know how when you get a burn, it's like pinky?
Yeah.
So apparently this creature's skin was like pinky purple. Its lower back had what she described as feathers, but flat on its back, and she made a note to say that at no point did they rise. That's going to become relevant later.
How far up the back did the feathers go?
She said that it was like the neck down to the like lower back.
So along the spine, if
basically.
It has one. Okay.
The feathers were joined by a reddish copper membrane.
Okay.
Okay.
So that like center piece and a lot of feathers, right?
It's like feathers that were joined by a little membrane, but it was like flat on its back.
Okay. Yeah.
So its nose was 2 little holes. Its mouth was a slash, and at no point did it open its mouth. So Tolentino never saw any teeth or fangs.
Okay.
She also said This is so freaking weird. That her curiosity led her to get on all fours and see if it had any genitals. She wanted to see like the entire body, I guess.
Because when I see a giant, terrifying creature with feathers and weird eyes, the first thing I want to do is see if it has a dick.
So apparently it didn't have any genitals, and it was just like
that she knows
flat.
about.
Yeah. And she even made a joke to her mom, like being like, "Oh, how does this thing poop?" Like, you know, if you which
okay,
is such a weird thing to say when you see a supernatural creature. That's not my immediate thought.
Yeah, number one. Number two, even on humans, the genitals and the pooping area are generally in different areas.
Yeah.
But what do I know? Well, actually, let's not get into that.
Well, not just that, but even in humans, you can't necessarily see our buttholes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's obscured by something.
But also, was she looking for the butthole or was she looking for the dick?
She said,
or
I like paraphrase, but she basically was like, how does it defecate? Does it defecate from its mouth, like when it eats or something? Because it doesn't have anything on the bottom.
Okay. By percentage, we've spent, at this point, almost a quarter of this episode talking about this thing's genitals.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Okay. No, I needed to point that out because I needed you to see how weird this was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. So, not the genital thing, but how weird this description is.
Yeah.
She said it moved like a robot, slow, as if guided by remote control. So, at first it didn't seem to notice her, but then it looked at her and she screamed because she was scared.
Yeah.
And when she screamed, it went running off. Or rather, hopping off, as it hopped like a kangaroo.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know how a kangaroo has like big long hops?
Yeah.
I guess it was doing like that motion.
Is it like a bounding or was it like I guess kangaroos are kind of a 2-foot hop.
She just said hop like a kangaroo.
Okay.
She said hop like a kangaroo, but it wasn't a kangaroo. So.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It went into the woods.
Okay.
And apparently, I don't know what's up with this family. Tolentino's mother ran after it.
Because again, when you see this giant creature moving like a kangaroo with feathers, you're
gonna chase it.
Yeah, you're gonna chase it, and also look for how it reproduces and poops.
So apparently,
official Dreary Midnight Stands, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't go after weird creatures.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was apparently a boy who was also there who had worked with her husband before.
Okay.
And this boy was like, not that he liked to catch animals, but he was like willing to deal with animals, basically.
Okay.
Like if there was a stray animal, he would like try to catch it.
Yeah, he was the kid in the neighborhood who always, you're like, what's that thing? He's like, oh, I'll go find it. He was that kid in the neighborhood.
So he went, grabbed some gloves, and like went after the creature.
Wait, how big is this thing?
4 feet, apparently.
Okay. That changes things in my brain ever so slightly.
I mean, 4 feet is still tall.
Yeah,
that's like
it's still
the size
tall.
of a child.
I had it in my head that this thing was like 6 or 7 feet tall,
Oh,
which
no,
is like, what the fuck? Why are you going after this? But if it's 4 feet tall, it makes more sense that you think you can chase this thing down.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, it was about like 4 feet tall. Yeah. So the kid went after it, and he chased it into the woods.
Okay.
When the boy tried to catch the creature, it whipped out its feathers, which were actually long spines, which stood straight up.
Like a porcupine or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like you know how she said there were feathers that were kind of like laying on its back?
Yeah.
That when he approached it, it like stood up the spines.
Oh, yeah.
So it was sort of
like an animal
serpent dragon
predation
thing.
or a predator type of thing. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I think that might be a prey move where you like try and make yourself look bigger.
That's true.
But yeah.
Interesting contradiction that I didn't think of.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know which one it is. As super duperstitious, the two biologists, can you tell us? They don't listen to this episode. And if they do,
Never say never.
At Jake and Wyatt, if you listen, at us.
So, yeah. Also, apparently the spines changed colors.
From what
As
to
if
what?
it wasn't weird enough. I don't know. Because originally it was a copper like a copperish red.
Yeah.
I don't know what changed to.
Yeah. Or is it like kind of an iridescent thing or like a
Maybe.
multichrome? Yeah, where it's like, well, the light's different, so
Yeah.
it looks different. Yeah.
Honestly, that probably makes more sense than just randomly chameleoning.
Oh, like a multichrome kind of situation?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Frustrating part about this is that we only have anecdotal evidence.
Oh, yeah.
So as much
Yeah.
as I want to answer so many of these questions, I'm like, I don't know.
Literally, we cannot.
Yeah, I literally don't know.
Yeah.
I only have theories.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know, man. Apparently, this boy also pried open its mouth, which means he did catch it at some point.
Okay.
And when he pried open the mouth, he saw teeth and long fangs.
Were they straw-sized and at least 3 inches long?
Well, they said that they were very large, so maybe.
Maybe.
He kept trying to catch it, which that once again doesn't make sense because I thought he had already caught it because he was able to pry open its mouth.
Yeah.
But apparently, he kept trying to catch it, and it ran out of the woods, and there was a kid on a bicycle who started throwing bottles at it,
Okay.
as one does.
I guess so.
And Talentino's mother, who was still like chasing after it, was like, catch it, like, there it goes. And then the creature started running faster, which one implies that it understood what she was saying.
Okay.
But apparently also it started running faster, so fast so that the feet weren't touching the ground. It's like
so
it was floating.
flying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was floating.
Okay.
I'll link I'll link the full interview below because it goes into way more detail and it goes into a bunch of other stuff that's just weird.
Okay.
But apparently she says that it had an odor like battery acid, that her husband saw it, or I guess ex-husband, and that she saw it again in January of 1996.
Okay.
She also said a lot of other people saw it, like on the island, but were too scared to like talk to the press about it. Also, apparently the mayor saw it, and according to this book that you let me borrow,
Yeah.
he held like basically like a hunt for it because the
Okay.
people in the town were so scared.
Okay. This is reminding me more and more of a 90s Creatures movie. Or like a monster movie kind of
Which
thing.
we will get into.
Okay.
But not yet.
Okay.
So, that was basically a rundown, a less detailed, but still pretty detailed rundown of the August 1995 sighting.
Okay.
So, at that point, it was just called a creature. Like, she was just calling it a creature. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the term Chupacabra was coined by radio DJ Silverio Perez in late 1995, live, while commenting on the then circulating rumors and tabloid stories about strange attacks on the island.
Huh. Okay.
So, in March of 1996, the Spanish talk show Cristina, so there's basically like the Spanish version of the Oprah Winfrey Show,
Okay.
aired the story about the Chupacabra. And immediately following the show, there was a tremendous amount of alleged sightings across Latin America and into the southern United States, including states like Arizona, Texas, and Florida.
Okay.
So, basically, there had been no real previous sightings other than, but once 1996 came around, suddenly there were many sightings all throughout the Americas
Okay.
because it was aired on basically
Oh,
the
on
equivalent
this-
of the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Oh, the Spanish-speaking Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, curiously, when people talked about the Chupacabra in the southwestern United States, specifically Texas, the description of the creature changed. Yeah.
To what?
Well, in the early 2000s, people started finding dead bodies of creatures that they deemed as chupacabras.
Okay.
These bodies were hairless, four-legged creatures with burnt-looking skin. They were sometimes blue. They had tails and protruding fangs, but looked less like a lizard and more like a dog.
Okay. So, but yes, fangs, no feathers. Whereas the one this first lady saw was yes, feathers, no fangs.
She didn't see the fangs, but apparently the boy that caught it saw the fangs.
Well, but so protruding fangs.
Yeah.
So yes, feathers, no obvious fangs on this first description. And then in later descriptions, it's no feathers, yes, obvious fangs.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I forgot to show you the image of what this first chupacabra looked like.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you, hold on, this little sketch.
Huh.
Don't pay attention to this one because we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But
so,
this is the basically little sketch of
yeah.
the original Chupacabra,
Yeah.
which I will put in the show notes as well.
Okay, so I was picturing the feathers kind of more spread like, or like an actual bird type of situation where it's just sort of like, it kind of fades out as it gets onto the arms and stuff, but it's actually illustrated as like spike that happens to be kind of like share some traits with a feather rather than like actually covered in feathers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's another image. So this is in Latin America, sorry, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Apparently it's El Chupacabra, which goes against everything that I've been taught about gendering words because it ends with an A, but it's El.
Oh, and A is feminine and L is masculine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me. I don't know.
I mean, then then again, sometimes the rule's broken, so I guess this is one of those times. So this is figure 1 in Latin America. El Chupacabra is thought to be biped with long spikes down its back. So here's a little image here. Okay,
so that's gonna be my sleep paralysis demon for a little bit.
And then here's this second version, a second type of Chupacabra in canid form, reported mostly in Texas since the mid-2000s. This animal was found in Blanco, Texas. See how it looks like a dog?
Yeah.
It just looks like a dog.
Yeah. It's, what's that one Mexican hairless dog?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
It looks like that, but like the size of a regular greyhound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, once it came into the U.S., people started noticing it looked like a dog. So basically what would happen is farmers and ranchers would find hairless, sickly-looking canines attacking their animals, and these creatures appeared so often that it kind of like shouldered out the Puerto Rican version, and this became like the new Chupacabra. So when people thought of Chupacabra, they thought of the dog version rather than the lizard version.
Okay. Were there any other sightings of the dog one or the...
Okay.
Yeah.
So I found some, as I was doing my research, I found some sightings. I'm air quoting sightings because some of them are inconsistent, but I think they're still interesting.
Okay.
These were stories that were submitted to, I think it was a blog. It was called Paranormal Phenomena.
Okay.
I say I think, and it was because I got this from Wayback. You know, like
the Wayback Machine?
Yeah, Wayback Machine. These are stories that were submitted to Paranormal Phenomena, and these stories took place not just in the southwestern United States, but also all throughout the U.S.
Okay.
And some of them have varying descriptions.
So it could well be that...
like something else completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they were put under like Chupacabra, or everybody who submitted a story, their explanation, they think that it was a Chupacabra. Okay. So basically what happened is everyone who thought or who's told this story, I guess, attributed it somehow to a Chupacabra or just assumed it's Chupacabra.
Because I feel like at a certain point, it's like, it's more likely to be your own regional thing. If it's mostly Puerto Rico and the American Southwest, then like, if someone in Maine is seeing this thing, it's probably the Maine version.
It's like the Jersey Devil or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm going to tell 2 stories right now, just so this episode doesn't run too long.
So we'll tell a couple others on Patreon.
Yeah. Tune into that because they're fun. Yeah. They're pretty fun, even if they aren't Chupacabras. Well, and you'll be the judge of that. If we'll go over and see. So I want to...
All right, I'm excited.
Yeah. So the first story I'm going to tell apparently took place in New Jersey.
Okay.
Hence Jersey Devil. No.
I mean, personally, I think it will probably be... I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with the Jersey Devil. Anyway,
I'm
keep
not
going.
either. Although, isn't it like... We should do an episode on that.
We'll
Either way.
Anyway.
So, New Jersey. So this is submitted by a person that I guess went by the username Ska Punk.
Okay.
Which is great.
The most aggressively 90s username.
Yeah.
But go on.
It was on a golf course in Brigantine in 2000 where Ska Punk and a friend had their sighting. His friend saw the little animal first, moving in the weeds. He yelled at it and it stood straight up, Ska Punk said. It was about 3 feet tall with spikes on its back. So far consistent with the first version.
Yeah.
Later that year, Another friend was startled by an unknown creature, again at the same golf course. Scott Punk and a few other friends went to investigate. His friend was flashing his light around and he caught 2 big red eyes. What we saw was crouched, then stood up and ran. We found the footprints in the sand traps on the golf course. We know it wasn't a fox. It had 2 big sharp claws in the front and a very small palm. So this version, instead of having 3 long fingers, it was like 2
big ones.
Yeah. So that was the first story from New Jersey that was submitted. This second story was from Illinois.
Okay.
Around 1989, when Tim B was 15 and living in Naperville, he believes he may have encountered chupacabras. I was at a friend's house, drinking and carrying on. When it became time for me to walk home, my walk was through a large dark field, then over a hill and down, then over railroad tracks, then up a hill again to my home. I reached the tracks, now standing on them. I was paralyzed with what I saw. Looking directly into my eyes, a demon, as I called it, was a quarter of the way up the hill in front of me in some brush about 20 feet from the path I took. It was bald, with huge eyes, about 3 to 4 feet tall, and the hands having claws. I saw no other features. I was so scared, it took everything I had to just run. I have never run as fast in my life. I ran by him up the hill, never once looking back. So these sightings are from New Jersey and Illinois.
Very much not the southwest of Puerto Rico.
Exactly. The other sightings that we're going to talk about, the Patreon, 2 of them are location unknown, but one of them is in Maryland.
So not too far from where we are.
So we aren't safe either, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway,
just across the river.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear the other sightings,
subscribe to the Patreon.
So, now that we've gone over kind of chupacabra sightings and, incidents in general, we're going to go into the possible explanations and possible debunking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
So, first things first. As mentioned, the first detailed description came from Madeline Tolentino in August 1995. In this incident, she didn't see the creature actually attacking anything, any livestock or anything, and she didn't see fangs. The unnamed boy saw the fangs.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some holes in Tolentino's story. For example, it was very suspiciously detailed. So in the interview, she said that there was a glass window and a gate between her and the chupacabra.
Okay.
But somehow she was able to see it clearly enough that she could tell it didn't have genitals. Right?
Yeah, that's weird. Because you have the obvious out of I couldn't see it because that bit was just behind the gate. And so all I could see was kind of the back and the hands and the head kind of thing, right?
But she saw apparently the entire thing from the head to the toes.
Yeah.
And it was
weird.
Supremely detailed.
Yeah. And
she could see how many fingers it had.
Yeah.
She could see where it was looking. She could see the tiny little slits for the nose.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Yeah.
So, also, apparently in an interview in 2010, Tolentino dismissed the account of the boy in the story, even though his discovery of the fangs was the missing piece that was able to link the creature to the livestock mutilations.
Yeah. Okay.
So, backtracking on her own story.
Yeah.
But the most damning piece of evidence is a film called Species.
Okay.
This is the film you alluded to.
Yeah.
So, Species is a sci-fi horror that features a creature named Still. And this creature has a spiky back and large wraparound eyes and thin limbs and fingers and no ears or nose. And it's basically a very close description of the chupacabra. So, do you remember that picture that I showed you earlier?
Yeah, the little illustration.
The little illustration. And then there was a picture next to it. So that picture next to it is actually a still from the movie. Huh. And I'm going to ask you to compare.
Okay, so illustration looks like a kind of a smaller sized version of Sill, which I guess is the
creature from the movie.
I guess the main things that are in the movie creature that are not in the sighting creature was, it does look like it's got 5 fingers, a little spike on the foot, 5 toes on the foot. These are all the species one, the movie one. And it's, the movie one's got what looks like a bunch of locks for hair, and like some sort of connection from where on a human would be their right ear to the back of their head. Like there's something shiny there. I don't know if that's part of it, but it's the broad strokes of the species creature and the creature that this person saw.
Pretty much
broad
the same.
strokes, basically the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which you could say is coincidence, because it has been like sometimes, you know, the horror directors use like inspiration. However, Species was released in Puerto Rico on July 7th, 1995, a month before the August incident. Yeah. And Tolentino herself said that she watched that movie just weeks before the incident in which she supposedly saw this creature.
But then if you had just seen the movie, wouldn't you think like, wait, that looks like this doohickey from that thing I just saw?
Yeah. So in the interview that I referred to and that will link, she actually is like, oh yeah, the movie Species, like this creature looks exactly like the Chupacabra. And I thought that was so creepy. Like because I remember seeing the Chupacabra and being like, that looks just like the creature from the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's aware and lampshading it.
She's like,
I think lampshading is right.
And she's even saying like, you should watch the movie. It's basically what it looks like. Which leads me and other people. So like, I think the person who figured this out, he was writing a book about the Chupacabra, and he had interviewed her, and then he had done his research and realized that this movie had come out a month before. It's not believed that she like maliciously or purposefully created a hoax, but more that this image was so ingrained in her memory that when she saw an animal that she was unfamiliar with, her mind basically played tricks on her and like put this memory onto this creature.
Filled in the gaps, basically. Yeah. Well, because you said the interview was what, like a year later?
Yeah, it was in 66.
96?
1966, yeah.
You just said 66.
1966.
I thought the movie came out in the 90s.
1996. I'm so sorry. My brain is not
Do you need
working.
more of the coffee?
You know what? Maybe I've had too much coffee.
I don't know. Anyway.
Sorry.
No,
you're right.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Okay. Sorry. So in 96. So if the interview is a year later, and these are two kind of moderate-sized events in her most recent summer, it could well be that her memories kind of conflated the two, especially if it was like kind of conflated with like the summer and a thing and my mom was moving in and all these other things. Like it could all just kind of get lumped into the same couple of events in your memory rather than like,
especially if they're happening like a month apart.
Yeah.
Although I will say I don't think she started getting press for this sighting until 66, but I'm pretty sure she had 96, but I'm pretty sure she had talked about it in 95. Okay. Which is how she got the press. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Basically, the author, I think his name is Redman or something, didn't believe that she was doing it on purpose, but just that like she was superimposing the image of the creature from the movie into the creature that she supposedly saw. Yeah. It could have been like a monkey or something that she just kind of like got a glimpse of and didn't. Yeah. Yeah. That's not the best evidence in support of a Chupacabra. Yeah.
Right. So any other theories?
Well, that's basically the main thing for that version. And then a lot of times it's basically like people will say that they see stuff because they are like confusing their memories with like, oh, you know, this thing that this other person saw, like I saw that. I think we were talking about that basically with the Brown Mountain lights.
Oh yeah, where you can kind of see the broad strokes of the same kind of thing, even if it's not the same actual thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, there were still livestock deaths and unexplained happenings, and all the people in Puerto Puerto Rico were like freaked out. So it could be that she was just scrambling for some sort of like, or people were just scrambling for some sort of explanation.
Yeah.
So speaking of the livestock deaths, they have been attributed to natural predators like dogs and coyotes. The majority of the corpses of these livestock were examined by veterinarians, and they were shown to actually still have some blood remaining in their body.
Okay.
They weren't completely drained of blood.
So this is going to be a bit of a long tangent, go with me. You know when you have like a water bottle and there's still like, you drink almost all the water bottle, but there's still that little bit in the very bottom that you can never quite get? Was it that type of thing where it's just like you can never physically get all of the blood out type of thing?
It is. So I'm going to go into this, but basically yes and no. So the blood loss was significant, but when they did autopsies, so the carcasses they still showed signs of lividity, like when the blood from the animal gathers in the lowest point of the body and begins to thicken. Yeah. So basically, like a water bottle thing, where it's just like the bottom part, which gives the illusion that a body had been completely drained of blood, but in reality, the fluids just dried up in an area that isn't readily visible.
Oh, so if it's lying on the ground, all the blood's going to coalesce on the bottom, on the side that's going to be lying on the ground.
And then
and if you're looking at it from the top, exclusively from the top,
it looks like it has no blood.
Yeah, but if you were able to pick it up and like roll it over a little bit, the bottom half that it was lying on is like going to be super, super bloody, potentially.
Yeah. Well, but also
it's going to have all the blood that's still around.
But the blood also thickened.
Oh, yeah.
Which made it wasn't like running blood.
Okay.
So it's theory of skeptics that most of the animals that were victims of the attacks did still have blood in their systems, but because their bodies had been found hours after the time of death, the blood had already seeped into the deepest part of the body and thickened. So when farmers, ranchers, and other citizens tested the bodies to see what had caused the death, they likely cut into the body and expect to find some blood, but with the corpse already experiencing lividity, it would have appeared as if all the blood had sucked out of the animal. So, yeah, basically what you were saying. Yeah. When they cut open the body, the blood would have been on the bottom. They wouldn't have been able to see it.
Okay.
So.
But wouldn't at least some vets and people familiar with dead animals know that might be a possibility?
I'm guessing. So here's the thing. In Latin American countries, or at least in Mexico, I know you kill the animal, and you're pretty familiar with how the animal looks when you kill it. There's lots of blood, and
if it's going straight from being alive to being dead within 5 minutes.
But if it's been hours, I don't know if they would just leave a body there for hours.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they might not be as familiar with how a decomposing body looks.
Yeah. Okay.
Rather than freshly killed body.
Yeah, because if they're a farmer, especially, like you're aiming to get that. To put it out of its misery or make the death quick.
Exactly.
And a couple of minutes tops, hopefully.
Exactly.
Whereas, yeah.
Like, I've seen... This is morbid. But back when I was like, I could raise chickens, I was like, would I be able to kill a chicken? I know that in, like, Mexico, at least, they're pretty, like... My dad grew up in a place where you kill your own animal sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was, like, looking at videos of, like, how to humanely kill a chicken. And first of all, I don't think I would ever be able to kill a chicken. I think I would just let them die naturally. But second of all, it's very quick. It's just chop the head off.
Yeah.
Very quick. So, yeah, I think they'd be familiar with that kind of death, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
They would either use up the animal.
Yeah. Number one.
Or they would bury an animal. Yeah. They wouldn't necessarily like just let it sit.
That makes sense because it seems like. Because now that I'm thinking about it for more than a second, it's like, if you're a farmer, like, you're killing the animal because you're going to need it this week and you have to prepare it this afternoon.
Exactly.
Or else it's going to go bad.
A lot of these articles mentioned, like, cattle mutilation, which I think is a very interesting topic. And I don't know if I could make a whole episode on that. And I don't know if it'd be too gory or squicky.
Well,
but cattle mutilation is a thing.
So that immediately... conjures to mind something that I am going to call use the morbid podcast of flesh pedestrian.
Sorry,
which I know
funny.
is a very like funny term, but a synonym for flesh is skin, and a synonym for
No.
pedestrian is walker.
We have to do an episode on that, but also I'm scared too.
Yeah, and the reason I'm not putting those words together is because in a lot of the myths, and in a lot of like the cultural bound part of it is you don't put it together. You don't say
the word,
because then if there's one nearby, it'll have its eyes on you.
Isn't it similar to Wendy boys also, where you're not supposed to say their name? Or is that different?
That's different because I think Wendigoag are not necessarily
well, they're
malicious.
Not, they're witches. They are malicious. Oh no.
Well, Wendigoag are
the
spirits.
Previous one is the witch. Sorry.
Yeah, the flesh pedestrians are the witches. Yeah. Wendigoag are just a spirit.
Yes.
That was my first episode with Devin.
Yes,
so
I remember
circle back and listen to that one if you want to hear more about Wendigoag, which is in fact the plural term for Wendigo.
Ooh.
Yeah. But yeah, the flesh pedestrians are fascinating, but also
I'm terrified to do an episode on them.
Yeah.
I don't need that kind of energy in my life.
Same.
We already live near the Appalachian, and we have to deal with that.
Yeah, we live near so much potential garbage anyway. I don't want to invoke anything else that I don't have to.
Seriously, I'm still young, okay?
So, any other theories?
Oh, right. So back to Chupacabras. That's basically the livestock thing taken care of. You know how I said that like there are some Chupacabras or instead Chupacabras that are more canine in appearance? Yeah. They're probably dogs or coyotes.
That would make sense.
So you know how so there were bodies of animals discovered in the southwestern US, and upon examination, none of those corpses were new life forms. They were all common predators like dogs, coyotes, and raccoons. And these animals probably had sarcoptic mange.
What is sarcoptic mange?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
So, Sarcoptes scabicanis. I did not pronounce that right, but you're the one who speaks Latin, so maybe you can help me.
I took Greek.
My husband speaks Latin, but he's not here.
Sarcoptes scabii.
Sarcoptes scabii canis. Thank you, Lisa. Is a type of parasite that causes sarcoptic mange, also known as canine scabies.
Okay.
So it's caused by a burrowing mite that digs deep into the skin and causes an allergic reaction. And the symptoms often disfigure the animal to some degree, manifesting itself in crusting and possible skin damage from the attempts of the animal to scratch and bite at the infected skin.
So if you have peeling skin, like from scratching or from burns, it kind of looks purplish pinkish.
And also the thing that sucks even more about this is that if they are already infected, they're more likely to get more mites.
Oh, because they're scratching at everything else, and it makes it worse.
It makes it disfigure further.
Yeah.
To the extent that the infection can severely disfigure and even transform the appearance of the creature. And the end result of this process is so severe that not even the farmers who shot the creatures were able to distinguish them from normal predators that might attack their livestock. Which is sad.
Yeah.
But also, that's why they're like, it's like a dog, but it doesn't look like a dog because...
Well, but if a dog is scratched its own, its own self up so much that it can't do anything else, then... Yeah.
So, it's probably mange. It's probably animals that have mange. Another explanation for the canine chupacabras, specifically, like I mentioned, like the bluish skin, could be what you said before, the Zolo dog.
Okay. Oh, is that the one Mexican one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Zolo dog, otherwise known as the Mexican hairless dog, I know that it has an actual name. I cannot pronounce it because even though I kind of know Spanish, I do not know the original indigenous language enough to be able to pronounce this. I'm going to spell it for you. XOLOITZCUINTLE. Well, it could be a different language. Like, I know that my tribe is the Purepecha tribe, and I think they had a different language than, the Aztecs and the Mayans.
True. Yeah.
So I don't even know what language this originates from. If anybody knows, chime in the comments.
Or send an email to rereadmidnightpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. It could be the Zolo dog, the Mexican hairless dog. Which, if you look at pictures of chupacabras corpses and then look at Zolos, they look pretty similar. Like the head shape is the same, the body shape is the same.
I could be conflating this with a different kind of animal, but aren't Xolos very small? Or no? I could be conflating it with a hairless cat.
Or Chihuahua, which is also a Mexican native dog.
Yeah.
Zolo dog. You know what Zolo dogs are? You know Coco? The movie Coco, Pixar movie Coco?
I haven't seen it, no.
You hate my culture.
I'm
just
sorry.
kidding. I'm just kidding. They're not exactly like super small. Like, here's some pictures. They're not like huge, but they're probably like a medium-sized dog.
Oh, yeah. Beagle or lab sized?
Yeah.
Like between a beagle and a lab?
Yeah. So I'm really saying Coco because they have a Zolo dog in that.
Okay.
And so now we have on the Pixar list for you to watch Brave.
Yeah.
And Coco.
Okay.
So sleep over at my house. We're gonna
Sleep
have a
over at
Pixar
Celeste,
marathon. Have you seen WALL-E?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm not a complete heathen.
Okay. Basically, I think it's either a dog with mange or maybe a Zolo dog with mange or something.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because there are people who have these animals' corpses on display and they like brag about how they paid like $5,000 for like a section of this, chupacabra or something.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny to think that people spent thousands of dollars on a dog corpse. Like they think it's a mythical creature, but it's just an animal.
Yeah.
So, and they have like them on display at museums and stuff.
I'm reminded of snake oil and that kind of thing, where it's just like it's the next giant thing, or like the P.T. Barnum selling like a or whoever, someone with that energy selling like a mermaid corpse.
But it was literally the mermaid corpse is just the fish and a monkey.
Preserved fish and a preserved monkey stitched together by a taxidermist or something.
Yeah.
That is a very broad strokes. I don't actually know if it's a taxidermist, but someone with experience in sewing and also corpses.
That's basically the debunking of the chupacabra. It's also, I do want to mention that despite the 1975 like livestock thing, there was no actual like sightings of the chupacabra prior to 95. So this thing has only been around for like a couple decades.
Yeah. And it's wild though, because like, did they ever find an answer for what the 1975 thing was?
Not really.
Like, was it just vampire bats going wild, or like
predators? Basically. I think bats was one of the explanations, like large bats. But honestly, I would have to do like a detailed deep dive into like what animals are native to Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
And see like cross reference and see if any of that. But I will leave you with one piece of evidence of the chupacabra that hasn't been thoroughly explained.
Okay.
Which are the puncture wounds.
Yeah.
There's still no actual explanation for that, or at least not that I could find. Yeah. So many people still claim that an unknown creature is lurking out there ready to kill unsuspecting livestock.
Uh-huh.
So who knows? I mean,
who indeed?
Is it an alien? Is it just an animal that we don't know about, or an animal we do know about?
Or someone making something up entirely and conflating it in their own memory.
Who knows?
Let us know what your theory is. Send us an email, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that would be great. Please do.
I love reading reviews.
Yeah, it's great.
I screenshot them and I keep them in my phone.
And circle back to them when we need a mood boost, because it's been great. Apple Podcasts and Spotify are the best places to do that. Also, shout out to this one review that is entitled Love the Detail from May 13th. So I'm sorry we didn't read it out earlier. And
we've been busy, man. It's been tour season.
We're finally, I think the last time recorded was like a day or two before May 13th. So appreciate you, person with a lot of letters slightly randomly pushed together, who wrote a review called Love the Detail on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you. If you want to follow us on socials, we are on Instagram at Dreary Midnight Pod. If you
want to hear the other Chupacabra stories,
follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/Dreary Midnight.
Yeah.
And with all that said, stay aware of mange and alien dick, I guess.
That's what you're gonna end it on. You're gonna end it on alien dick. I was thinking like, don't go chasing strange creatures in the woods or something.
Don't do that either. And also, why are you looking for alien dick? Oh my god. And
with that being said,
safe travels home on this dreary midnight. Good night.
Good night.